The last photo my uncle ever took was of something with wings. Its eyes glowed like fire, even in daylight. He vanished the next morning without a trace. I went to Point Pleasant to find answers, but I found something that doesn't want to be understood. It wants to be seen, and once you've seen it, it never leaves you. My Uncle Alan wasn't the kind of man who vanished without a trace. He was a war photographer, a survivalist, and a storyteller. He'd been documenting small-town folklore and Appalachian ghost stories for years, and his last project took him to Point Pleasant, West Virginia, to investigate the legend of the Mothman. I hadn't heard from him in 2 weeks when the police called. They'd found his rental car abandoned near the old Silver Bridge site. The driver's door was open, no blood, no signs of a struggle. His gear was gone, and so was he. They called it an accident. Said he probably fell into the river during a storm. But Alan didn't make mistakes like that. And then, 2 days after the search ended, I got a voicemail. No number, no location, just static. And his voice. Don't look at the eyes. It knows when you see it. Tell them. I tried to warn you. It chilled me to the bone. Alan's voice cracked halfway through, like he was hiding, whispering into the phone with something just inches away, and the message ended with a strange mechanical whir, like wings beating in a tunnel. I couldn't sleep after that. So I packed my car and drove from Cincinnati straight to Point Pleasant. The air was thick when I arrived. Fog rolled down the hills like spilled milk, clinging to the forest floor and blanketing the rusted bones of old rail bridges. Everything smelled of moss and river rot. The locals stared when I stopped at gas stations. A few asked if I was a reporter. Most just turned away when I mentioned Alan. At the sheriff's office, I met a tired man in his 60s who had clearly been through this routine before. He didn't bother offering a seat. Your uncle was seen camping near the Silver Bridge. Ruins. Locals said he was out at night. Kept pointing his camera at the trees. Did anyone find the camera? I asked. He hesitated. Bag was found, but the electronics were ruined. Probably water damage. But he wouldn't look me in the eye when he said it. Later that evening, I went to the river, parked near the trailhead where his car had been found. And that's when I saw it, half buried in red clay and leaves just off the main path. Alan's waterproof camera bag, still zipped. Inside, everything was dry. There were dozens of photos on the memory card. Forest canopies. Strange nests built high into the trees. Abandoned buildings near the river. Then, in the final set of images, the focus shifted to the Silver Bridge ruins. One photo showed the crumbling base of the bridge. The next, taken in sequence, had strange blurs across the sky, like movement. The final photo was angled upward. The creature was standing on the arch, wings folded behind it. Long, thin limbs, a human shape, but wrong. Distorted. Watching the camera, its eyes were the worst part. Bright red, glowing, even in daylight. Something ancient stared back through the lens. I dropped the camera. That night, I had the first vision. I was standing on the bridge in the rain, the beams groaning under some invisible weight. A wind howled like a freight train. My uncle stood in the middle of the span, waving for me to run. Then, the bridge collapsed. I woke up gasping, heart hammering. My phone buzzed, 3:17 a.m. No messages, just a flicker of static on the screen. I barely slept after that. The next day I tried to interview locals. Most refused to talk. One woman at a bait shop finally broke her silence. You see it before bad things. Always. Floods. Collapses. Fires. It doesn't cause them. It just knows. What is it? I asked. She shrugged. The Mothman. A warning. But once you see it, you don't get to forget. I checked into the same cabin Alan had rented. A drafty place tucked behind a line of pine trees, not far from where the Silver Bridge had once stood. I spent my nights poring over his notes, voice recordings, and the images he took. It started small. Power flickers, brief losses of time. I'd check the clock and swear only minutes had passed, yet hours were gone. Then came the dreams, each one worse than the last. In one, I was strapped into a plane plummeting toward mountains. In another, I was drowning in a tunnel with no exits. And in every dream there it was, watching, the Mothman. It never moved, it never spoke, but it was always there. The deeper I went into Alan's notes, the more patterns I saw. Maps with dates circled. Headlines clipped from local papers. Disasters. Every one of them preceded by reported sightings of a man with wings. His notes? grew frantic near the end. Paranoia, descriptions of whispers at night, electronics failing, dreams of wings. One entry stood out. Saw it again today. Full daylight. Watching from the ridge. Eyes like coals. It doesn't want to be seen, but it wants you to know. I felt eyes on me constantly. One night, I heard movement outside. Not footsteps. Wing beats. Massive. Rhythmic. Unnatural. I grabbed Alan's camera and ran outside. The air was cold and still. But there, above the tree line, just for a moment, I saw the silhouette again. Wings wide. Head cocked in my direction. I snapped a photo, and the camera exploded in my hands. Plastic and wires burst, hurling sparks across the porch. My palms were singed. The final clue came from an old voice recorder Alan kept in his gear. It had one. File left. It came to me last night. Stood outside the cabin for hours. I didn't sleep. It doesn't talk. Not the way we do. It presses thoughts into you. I know what it is now. It doesn't kill. It shows. It shows you the end. I knew I had to go to the bridge. I waited until sunset. Walked the cracked path with Alan's, camera bag in hand. Fog clung to the trail like breath on glass. Each step felt heavier. The air carried a weight. The fog was thicker than usual. Silent. Too silent. I stepped onto the bridge remains, my breath shaking. Then I heard it. Wings. Massive. Slow. Deliberate. I turned, and it was there, closer than ever, eyes glowing. A body like a burned angel, regal and wrong. It didn't advance. It didn't flee. It watched, and then I understood. The way Alan did. I saw fire. I saw a plane falling from the sky. I saw screams, in tunnels and water rushing over hills. I saw my own hands clutching Alan's camera, a second before the bridge groaned beneath me. A warning. It was warning me. And then it vanished. I left that night. Drove until I saw city lights. I haven't gone back, but I still see it. Reflected in windows, in dreams, and sometimes just outside the reach of headlights on empty roads. I tell myself it's just a story. But every time disaster strikes somewhere, and someone claims to have seen wings in the sky, I feel the camera buzzing in the drawer where I locked it away. And I remember Alan's last words. Don't look at the eyes. It knows when you see it. You were warned.